Hello and welcome to the Still Standing series. I'm your host, Coach Violet Coots, and I'm so happy to have my special guest, Kim Patton, with me today. I'm a Christian life coach, equipping and empowering individuals to live in their true identity and be who God created them to be. I'd love for you to grab my free biblical affirmation card so you can start renewing your mind today and finding that freedom. And if you're feeling stuck in any area of your life, schedule a free breakthrough session with me. The link will be in the show description. Hello, Kim.
Good morning.
So good to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I'm excited to hear what you come to share. I think what you're sharing with us today is just going to touch so many, so many lives and everything. So I won't keep us. If you will, just tell us a little bit about you, and then share what God has laid on your heart to share today.
Like she said, my name is Kim Patton, and I have been a Christian. I like to think as long as I can remember, my family raised me in the church, and I have several brothers. And so I was the second to youngest of a group of boys. And I grew up in a very lively household with very loving parents. And, the pastor visited me when I was born in the hospital. So I was born into the church, and I think it really formed my faith from a very early age. And I was very tender to God, and I was not resistant. I was very open. I feel like, I do have a sensitive heart in that I can't run away from God too far because I get really convicted, and I just come running back because my life without him, I know, is, purposeless, and I have had my moments where I've spent time without him, and I always come back. But, I think if I'm really gonna focus on where God kind of led me as a child, I would say it was in my teenage years when I was trying to figure out, who I wanted to be around. And I had this group of friends that they were so funny, they were so cool, and I just really wanted to be in their world. But I knew that they weren't Christ-centered, and they were good people. They were great people. They even, I think, went to church, but it wasn't as important to them as I knew it needed to be for me. So I had to make a decision, and they went to a different school and I stayed, and I was very lonely because I wanted to be wanted. I wanted to be in a clique, and God kinda left me at that school all by myself, and I was a little bit mad about it. But then he sent me this friend. She was from Japan, and she didn't know very much English, and we started spending time together and hanging out, and God used that friendship to bring me to Japan a few years later. I went for 2 weeks right after I graduated from high school, and I think he sent he put us together for a reason. It was to help me, and it was to help her, and she lives back in Japan, and she has a family now. But I just remember those high school years as making really critical choices for what was important to me. And so then that led on to college where I met my husband. We've been married for almost 15 years, and it has been a wild ride. I will say we have been through basically everything together. There's been a lot of ups and downs. We've lived in Texas, Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and now we're in North Carolina, and we've only been here for a few months. So, we've had several moves, and there's a lot of stories behind those moves that we won't get into today. But I think the theme for the last several years has been God just leading and guiding us. He is just constantly leading and guiding. And I like to say that God isn't really loud in my life. He's never, I mean, there's been a few moments where I felt like he was clearly speaking to me, but it's always been really subtle presence and just kind of like a nudge, like a push forward in a certain direction.
Yeah.
And I can always look back and say, okay, he was kind of nudging us in this direction, or he was teaching me this during that season, but it's like I don't get it in the moment. I don't get it in that season. It's clear later.
Right.
So, right before the pandemic, we were really struggling with how we were gonna grow our family. We had been trying to start a family since 2015, and it was just not happening. I mean, nothing was happening. We went to the doctor, and they said it was unexplained infertility, and at that point, I was in denial. I just thought, "Oh, it'll just happen. I don't really wanna put much thought into it or much effort because I'll just trust God to bring us our family," and I really thought that I was gonna get pregnant. But when the years passed and it became very clear that I was not going to get pregnant, Kevin and I had to make a decision, and it feels so weird to make a decision about growing your family. It's like it was not supposed to be this way.
Right.
Um, and I'm not the first person to say that, you know? It's not supposed to be this way. Lisa Turkers wrote a whole book about it. I love that book because the cover is a woman walking, but it's upside down. And so she's, walking on the road, but the road is on the top of the book cover. And that's just such a visual of, yeah, it's not supposed to be this way. We have this vision, we have this expectation of, I've gone to 50 baby showers. I've helped with baby showers. Of course it's going to be my turn one day. It's a no-brainer. But that is not how God wrote our story, and I'm so thankful that He wrote it the way He wanted it to go, because I have 2 beautiful girls. They are adopted, we got them at birth, and they're only 1 year apart. Um, I'm staring at their picture over there because I have I have a picture of them in the same shirt 1 year apart,
Yeah.
and they're side by side photo frames just to
Oh.
remind me, um, of when they were little chubby cheeked babies. One of my babies still has chubby cheeks, but the other one has outgrown her chubby cheeks, and I do miss them a little bit.
Yeah.
So, through our infertility journey, we were led to adoption, and we were led to open adoption. And for those people listening who are not really clear about what open adoption is, it's kind of a relatively new concept in the last several decades. Um, there's stories of families long, 50, 60 years ago being separated from the children are separated from their birth mothers at birth, and then they find each other later in life. That used to happen a lot. There was a lot of secrecy around adoption, but now, thankfully, research and evidence shows that an open adoption relationship is good for both sides. The adoption triad is the birth family, the adoptive family, and the children. And I've really enjoyed learning about the adoption triad. We were blessed with a wonderful birth mother. Her name is Ashley, and she lives in Florida, and we visit her every year. And we just went there, I guess like a month ago, and we got to see her. We got to hug on her. We got to meet her boyfriend. We got to see her mom. We always see her mom too, and they are wonderful. And Ashley walked down to the creek with our girls and held their hands and, I don't know, threw sticks in the water. They spent a few minutes together, just the 3 of them, and I don't know that we've ever done that. They're old enough now where, they could do that with her, and they are warming up to the fact that, like, my oldest, definitely, she's 5 years old now, and she knows that Ashley is her birth mother. I think Shiloh knows that we love Ashley. I think that's just, the sentiment around our visits is we really try to encourage them to, um, be sweet and to love on Ashley because she brought them into this world, and Ashley has shared her family with us, and she's a part of our family. So, as we were exploring the adoption world and kind of partnering with that was foster care, and my husband started looking into foster care after we watched the movie Instant Family with Mark Wahlberg. And he he loved that movie, and he kind of walked away thinking, "Oh, we're going to adopt a sibling group." And we didn't end up adopting a sibling group through foster care, but we were able to do 2 infant adoptions, which was good for my mama heart because I got to be a mom to babies, and I think that God was like, "Listen, if I don't give Kim babies, I think she might die, so I definitely need to give her some babies." And he did, and I still am so surprised and shocked that I got to do the baby thing 2 times, and it nearly killed me because those babies, oh my goodness, I still can't figure out how to get them to quit screaming. Like, they are just lively. They are my lively, wild children, and they don't come from my body and they don't come from my DNA, but they definitely have my feisty personality. So I kind of entered this season of motherhood and just struggling with, oh my goodness, I have 2 babies under 1 year old. I have 2 babies under 2 years old. I have 2 babies under 3 years old. And I still have two preschoolers, a 5 and an almost 4 year old. And it's exhausting, but it is a privilege to raise them. It's a privilege to be a part of this adoption triad. And Kevin and I still were trying to figure out how to raise them, um, as a family, and Kevin was having a hard time finding a career that really fit him, and so he looked into foster care, and he looked into group residential care, which neither of us really had any idea what that was, but he searched for jobs day in and day out, and he would come to me and tell me about these jobs he was looking at online, and I would say, "Are you insane? I c I can't even raise these 2 babies, and you want me to live in a house with 6 or 7 teenage girls also?" And
Wow.
he said, "Oh, but I'll be there." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, babe, I love you, but that is just not good enough." I need an army to raise teenage girls from hard places.
Yeah.
But God, you know, there's so many verses in the Bible about God softening hearts. Um, Obviously with Pharaoh, he hardened his heart, but, God softens our heart. He turns hearts of stone into hearts of flesh.
Yeah.
And I mean, I like to think that I didn't have a heart of stone, but me knowing myself, when my husband brought that job to me and said, "We have an interview next week," I yelled at him. I was like, "Why are you making me do something I don't wanna do? I I can't do this. So what is your line of thinking? Because I am not tracking at all." And we really struggled through that short season of him trying to figure out a way for us to be a family and for him to raise our children and help in child welfare. And
Wow.
I just thought, but this is not the right time. Again, it goes back to it's not supposed to be this way. You're not supposed to ask me to be a foster mom when I have a child that's not even potty trained yet. Do you know what goes into potty training?
Uh,
I could not even fathom. But I think that God gave him the persistence and the wisdom and the discernment and the discretion to continue to lead our family in this direction. And he did not listen to me. He did not give it up because I think, I mean, he's a smart guy. And even though he's never done this before, I think that God was like, you know, this is the direction I'm leading you, and you are the leader of your family. And he was very tender with me. He answered all of my questions. He was very gracious, but he was persistent. And so we moved forward and we did an on-campus visit in South Carolina, and the girls were being watched by someone else, and we drove there, and we drove through that little town, and I just looked around and I was like, nope, nope, no. And my heart was still hard, but we sat through a grueling interview, hours and hours and hours of questions and meeting people and more questions, and then we went on a tour of the campus, and then we met some house parents, and they were in a house with, I think at the time they probably had 6 or 7 teenage girls, and we were sitting at the kitchen table, and some of the teenagers, one of them was washing her water bottle and just talking about her day at school. The other one was boiling an egg. I think she was doing, like, a science experiment, and she was boiling an egg, and then I don't know what she did with the egg afterwards, but I just thought, "Oh, wow. This is wonderful. This is beautiful." And, the house parent was, later he was getting dinner ready, and he got out a big cookie sheet, and he put aluminum foil on it, and then he put a bunch of dino chicken nuggets on the tin foil. And Kevin and I were just standing there talking to him, asking questions, and we were laughing. We're like, "Do they like chicken nuggets?" And he's like, "They will only eat dino nuggets. They will not eat normal chicken nuggets, just dino nuggets." And
Okay.
these are teenage girls. And so we went out to eat that night before we had to drive home, and we just sat there and kinda looked at each other, and I was like, "Wow." I mean, on campus, I felt I don't know how to describe it. I think, just something special, just something unique, something powerful. God's presence was obvious on campus. It was obvious in the people that I met, and I think for the first time, my heart softened, and I thought, "You know what? Okay." I think, I'm an extrovert. I love people. I love being around people. I love being part of the action. I loved working in the youth group when Kevin was a youth pastor for a few years. We loved working in the youth group. And so I think that taste kinda came back. I was like, "Oh, yeah, this is fun."
Wow. Wow. Okay. So now have your moves been where you are parenting and fostering? Is that, if I can ask that question?
Kind of. We were in Florida for 7 years, and that's where we adopted, and then we moved to Georgia to be closer to Kevin's family, and he started a new job there, and that was kind of his last career shift where he was like, "Okay, let me try this." And he did not like it. So he did it for a year. He was a hospice chaplain in Georgia for a year, and we were by his family, and so that was great, but I was having a hard time, and, we didn't love living in North Georgia where, it just there was a few things that just didn't quite fit our family. One in particular, we were living out in the country, in the mountains, really, and to go to even a playground, I had to drive 20 minutes. Um, so I did have some really good friends in the neighborhood, and I was able to spend time with friends there. But I mean, for the most part, I was by myself, and I just really did not like that. So um, that's when he was looking for the jobs, and the one he found was in South Carolina. So we did move to South Carolina to work with teenage girls for 1 year, and it was amazing. It was so hard and so challenging, and it kicked my butt. Um, I think it was kind of like trial by fire. We had a 2 and a 3-year-old, and we moved, and, we lived in the cottage for 1 week, and then we lived in our off-duty house for 1 week, and so we would go back and forth between the cottage and our off-duty house. Yeah, it was kind of a interesting way of life. Um, but we got to the end of that year, and they requested that we work with teenage boys, and so we did for, like, 2 months, but then, Kevin kind of started looking for jobs because he's like, "I don't think we should work with teenage boys long term with our little babies." So we looked for jobs, with teenage girls, and so that's how we ended up in North Carolina.
Okay. Okay. So you are still um, working with, I mean, this is still what you do and everything. You're still working with kids. Foster, is that considered fostering, or is that considered a little something a little, I guess it's a little bit different.
It's called residential group care, but the children are, or I should say the youth, because they try to tell us to say youth because we work with teenage girls. But we do have a 12-year-old, so she's not a teenager yet. Um, so they are most everyone is in DSS, so Department of Social Services. They are in the child welfare system. They have been separated from their families. Um, I think when we were in South Carolina, we had a few more private placements, and so there was families that would place their teenagers. There's actually a lot of post-adoptive placements, when children are adopted at birth or at a young age, and then when they become teenagers, there's a lot of emotions regarding their identity, and they tend to struggle. So when families have teenagers that have been adopted, they often need to put them in a private placement to help the families figure out how to, reunify and work together as a family. But um, I think now I've only had DSS teenagers in our home, and so we have 5. We just got 2 last week, so um, I'm smiling because they're adorable. I just wanna eat them up. They're so cute and they're so, feisty and fun, and they make me laugh, they make me crazy, they do all the things that teenage girls do. And so we are off right now for a few weeks, but we'll go back and see them on the weekends, because they have a softball tournament going on right now. And so all the staff and all the kids get to come together on Sunday nights and eat hot dogs and play softball. So I get to see them on Sunday nights, but I am not going to be, we're not living at the cottage for a few weeks. We'll go back in mid-May.
Gotcha. Wow. Wow. That's amazing. And you've got to have the heart for that. And obviously you do. I mean, just you can see it in your face and in your smile, and you know that this gives you life in everything. And that, I mean, that's wonderful. It's wonderful that you're doing a very important and hard work. It's got to
Mhm.
be hard, but it's also, I would think it's got to be also very oh my Lord, just rewarding, because you are really touching lives and stuff. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, God has led us to this point to where he he knows my personality, obviously. He created me for who I am, and I haven't always loved my own personality. I've often thought, "Oh, I'm too much. I'm too crazy. I'm too hyper. I'm too childish. I'm too whatever." And then a teenager will look at me and be like, "Oh, you're so fun, Miss Kim." And I'm like, "Thank you. I appreciate that." Because I've had adults who kind of, look down at me and they're just like, "Oh, you're a little bit immature." And I'm like, "Well, you know what? So be it. I am who I am, and God has put me in a home with my babies and my husband and these teenagers. We get
Mhm.
to go to activities together. We get to run around outside. I tossed a football with one of my teens this week, and she jammed her finger, and so we had to stop. But
Mm.
um, we are playing softball. I make them dinner. They make fun of me because my cooking isn't that great. And we have, just this relationship that is it's weird because you're not their parent, yet you're parenting them. And you're not their mom, but you're acting like their mom. And so like I have this delicate balance of, listen, I know I'm not your mom. I'm not trying to be your mom. I'm not pretending to be your mom, but I'm going to have my mama heart for you, and I'm going to do for you what I would do for my own kids. And they see us parenting our little kids, and we have interesting conversations. Last week one of them said, "Oh, I would give anything to a kid to make them stop crying." And I'm like, "Well, if you do that, then you're teaching the child that to whine and cry and scream gets them what they want." And that's kind of a basic parenting lesson that you learn pretty early. But, these teenagers are seeing us parent, and sometimes I don't like that. Sometimes I want to hide. I want to shut the back door and say, "Listen, I'm gonna go talk to my child, and I don't want anybody to hear what I say." But, they do, and they see Kevin, taking care of Shiloh when she's having a tantrum. They see me cooking when I have toddlers running up and running into my leg or peeing in the bathroom on the floor, and I have to stop cooking dinner to go clean up, because they didn't quite make it to the toilet. Um, my girls don't really pee their pants anymore, but they do make it to the bathroom and then pee on the floor. It's like they can't make it that extra inch.
Right, right.
I'm like, I mean, it happened this morning. Like, little
Yeah.
girl didn't go to the bathroom when she first got up. And so I heard her run to the bathroom, and then I heard, like, the flood be released, and it was not in the right location, and I heard her say, "Uh-oh."
Oh, oh, wow. But the things that you are teaching, those girls, those teenagers, not just your kids, and not just teaching, modeling that for them. And oh, wow. That's wonderful. And talking about not always liking, our identity, but and I feel like even that gives you, to help these girls that's questioning their own identity, and they can see that, I'm getting a little teary-eyed actually thinking about what all you're doing here. But where they can see that God has a place for all of us, and that we're not too much, or we're not, and we're not enough, that we are. And like I said, I'm getting teary-eyed myself. But no, that's beautiful. I mean, it's got to be hard work, and not everybody can do it. But if God calls you to it, and then you're actually following Him, He has that perfect plan. He has that perfect plan for all of our lives. Uh, and but you know, being willing. Um, being willing to hear, even heard him, even though you wasn't ready to do and step in, but you did, you still, you heard him and you obeyed and stuff. And that's I what you're doing is beautiful. What you're doing is beautiful.
Aw. It's a privilege. I like to say, following God is an adventure. I I think that we can get in this mindset of, "Oh, I'm just, like, doing my duty and reading my Bible and going to church as a just the thing that we do." And, God kinda keeps us from all the fun, and, um I think for the last few years, I thought, "You know what? There is a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun to be had." Yeah, you have to put up with some really difficult issues.
Mm.
This job has stretched me. I I don't even wanna tell you how much it has stretched me in the last year and a half. Um, I had a conversation recently with my husband just telling him, "You know what? This is all your fault. I told you I couldn't do this." And he's like, "Stop, stop. You know that's not true." And I'm like, "Well, it's how I feel right now." But the adventure has come up so much in just the activity. Spending time with people is my favorite thing to do in the whole world. You There is not enough people to make me happy. I love all the people. Bring me to the crowds.
Yeah.
This job is, just overflowing with relationships. It is relationship driven, and I think for anyone who gets excited about relationship driven ministries, working with youth from hard places is 100% relationship driven, because there's something that happens in their brain when they experience trauma, and one of the ways to heal from trauma is relationships. And you cannot rush, you cannot hurry. No matter what you say, you cannot accomplish what you want to accomplish. You have to spend time with them, and more time and more hours and more days, and you have to pour into their life and you have to listen to them. So, by nature, this job is showing up. I cook them dinner. Like I said, I am not Miss Chef USA. I am basically it's edible. I make a mean tater tot casserole, but and a good pan of brownies from the box, but, that's not my specialty, but I'll be out there throwing the football with them, or, a couple of nights ago, we had fitness night, and so we all went to the gym, and our rec director wrote the workout on the board, and we all worked out for 45 minutes, and, like, my rec director, his eyes were just lighting up. He was like, "Look at this room full of girls who are bench pressing and throwing weighted balls against the wall and, passing them to each other like a Russian twist, like, side to side." And I'm still sore. I can feel those muscles because, we worked out together. That is adventure. Who
Yes.
doesn't want to do that? That is I get paid to I mean, it's mind-blowing, but in order to have that adventure, you do have to be willing to say, like, "Not my will, but yours." I mean, we've had kids who have been so severely abused that it just makes you wanna go grab a shotgun and truck out and find the perpetrators because it's not fair, and it can invoke such anger that my teens have suffered immense pain, physical, emotional, spiritual, sexual abuse, and it's not their fault. And you know what? When they lose their minds and yell at me or have a bad day at school or throw something across the room or complain about my cooking, just like, they live with a constant hole in their lives. They're separated from their birth family, and their brain has been affected by abuse and trauma. So, they speak out of that pain. And, we go through training. We go through a lot of training, um, extensive, hours of where we are studying trauma and how to respond and how to understand what these kids have been through and how to build relationships, not take things personal. Um, I was really proud of myself a few weeks ago because somebody yelled at me and I was like, you know what? I totally saw it as their pain. They were speaking out of their pain. And in that moment, they were like a child because they were reverting back to their abuse and their trauma. And they were yelling at me because they were feeling like a scared child stuck in a corner, and I didn't take it personally, but, like, God gave me the grace to be like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. I'm so sorry. It's not fair. It's terrible, horrible. You don't deserve that." And I haven't always responded well when someone is yelling at you, especially when I started doing this job for the first time and people started taking out their trauma on me. I was like, "What is happening? I did not deserve this." But with all the training, and I'm gonna be learning for the rest of my life. The brain is very complicated. Um, I'm so grateful to be able to learn and grow. And really, I'm just grateful to be a part of these girls' lives. And I'm grateful that my kids, get to run around with their bonus sisters and they have braids in their hair. One of my teens spent 5 or 6 hours on Sunday braiding both of my daughter's hair. And it was
Wow.
beautiful. It was just a beautiful picture of our family, and we're a hot mess, but I'll be the first to admit to we're a hot mess, but I love it. I love our beautiful hot mess.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and thank you for sharing with us and everything because that is just beautiful. So what is something that you might want to say, to the audience? Um, knowing what you know and going through, how God's led you and where you are now. And what's something you might want to say to the audience or to the lady out there, to the parents out there who are either struggling, to have their own children, and or maybe even thinking, is foster care or, adoption, I don't know, whatever God lays on your heart, what do you want to share to them?
Well, the mama struggling to, you know, be the best mom is near and dear to my heart because that's me every single day. I I I don't know. I didn't used to think I was a perfectionist, but I think I kind of am. I just have really high expectations of how I want to be, and I am not the wife and mom that I want to be. And that breaks my heart, but God's grace has met me in my weakness. I've cried out to him so many times and just said, "I can't do this. I cannot do what you are asking me to do. It's impossible. Like y- you're wrong. I can't do it." And God just very gently says like, "I know. Just it's me. I know you can't do it. Just do it with me and depend on me and we'll do it together."
Mm,
He doesn't let me off the hook. So, I know that raising kids is hard and some days it does feel impossible, but God's grace is so big and so beautiful and it never runs out. Um, I would say worship music has been really helpful. I'm on a Brandon Lake kick right now, so I'm listening to Hard Fought Hallelujah. I'm listening to Gratitude. Um, I'm listening to his new song, I Looked Up. It's beautiful. So worship music is really helpful to just get my mind back to God being my strength. And I am active in the infertility community. Waiting and Hope is an amazing infertility community. They have a website, they have an Instagram, and we share our stories. We share our pain of what it's like to wait for kids. And I have a few women in that group that are still they're waiting. They're waiting for God to bring them their family. And my heart is burdened for those women because I know that pain. Um, And then also for those who have considered foster care, I would say go watch Instant Family because it's just a beautiful movie. It's funny. Uh, it's based on a true story. I think the director um, ended up. I mean, it's basically his life story of he and his wife and how they grew their family. And there's a scene in there near the end that Kevin just clings to, and it's the dad talking to the teenage girl. And it's just so funny because as God has been leading our family, God has led Kevin in very specific ways, and he loves that scene of the dad talking to the teenage girl, and now he's a teenage girl dad, and,
oh,
um yeah, it's really beautiful, and he's a good teenage girl dad. He does a good job. It's a hard job because they have been abused by men, and they don't like men. They don't trust men, and so he's walking in the door with the target on his chest, and he has to be more relationship driven for the long term because the only thing he can do is um, be there for them and grow the relationship because there's nothing he can say because a lot of them just immediately um, are repelled because he's a man. But he shows them in time and with great effort that he's a good guy. He's not so bad once you get to know him. And I love him. So I'm always talking good about him and lifting him up to the girls. And, they cringe when we hug and kiss, but it is what it is. And I would say to someone considering foster care that it is scary, super scary, and it's okay to be scared. I'm still scared and I'm doing it.
right, there you go.
But it is, you know what? It's not about us. These kids didn't ask to be taken from their families. They didn't ask to have their life shattered by someone being violent towards them. So
Mhm.
it's not. it's not about how I feel. I mean, I feel like I can't do it, but God says you can with my strength. And our organization licenses foster families, and my heart really does go out to those families who are signing up for foster care, and they have kids of their own, and they're nervous and they're not sure what they're signing up for. But I love seeing new families get licensed because I just wanna look at them and be like, "Thank you. You're doing it. I'm so proud of you. It's gonna be really, really hard. It's gonna be really hard." But, Jamie C. Finn, she runs Foster the Family, which is an organization, and she's based in, Pennsylvania. Um, and she has an Instagram as well that is very encouraging. I think they're about to adopt another son that they've had for a while. And she has bio kids, she has adoptive kids, and she has foster kids. So she's amazing. I've heard her speak, and uh, I point everybody to her because she's been doing it for 10 years, and she talks about every single thing that is important in being a foster adoptive bio mom. Um, and you don't have to do it all. I have friends who are respite foster moms, and they've just had, they go through the licensing process, and then they get phone calls, and sometimes they might get a phone call, "Hey, can you have this kiddo for a weekend?" And they have an extra kiddo in their house for the weekend. So I get it. I get that not everybody can do it, and I want to have kindness and compassion because I totally understand. But at the same time, I would challenge Christians, just to think about, like, what kind of adventure might God have for you? What kind of adventure are you willing to go on? Do you have a spare bedroom? And are you willing to read a book or two about being a trauma-informed parent? Are you willing to go to fill out some paperwork, and get a home study done? Because kids just they need the families, and we need the families to be willing to do it. And I get it. I know it's hard, but maybe it's an adventure.
Mhm. Oh, that's beautiful. That's wonderful. I certainly appreciate again that you've come on with me today and that you're sharing all of this and just hope that a lot of people are encouraged by this and maybe more than encouraged, maybe actually prompted to say that's what I needed to kind of push me on over the edge that you know, God's been talking to me about it and they just maybe needed to hear something a little bit more and maybe that will be the encouragement that they need. But
Mhm.
and you have a website because, if people want to reach out to you, can they reach out to you on the website, which will obviously have that in the description and everything like that. But yeah, it's amazing. I think it's absolutely amazing and in so many areas, but following God, really life is about trusting God and
Mhm.
He's equipped us all to do certain things but we have to make that choice to actually to step out and do it. To step out and do it. And
Mhm.
thank you for what you're doing. So
Yeah. Thank you for having me. It's good to process through what we're going through because we live it, and then, we kind of need to verbalize, wow, this really is about trusting God. It really is about following God. It really is about not about me. And I think that we need that reminder every single day that it's not about us.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Everything's bigger than us, isn't it? Uh,
Mhm.
that's wonderful. Well, thank you. Now, I do always like to leave my guest or everybody, not my guest, but with watchers with that promise that we find in Isaiah 43:2, as it says, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. And when you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, nor shall the flames scorch you. Because we will walk through fires or through the rivers and stuff, but we have this promise. And if this episode has been encouraging to you, please like and subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and share this with a friend. And as a reminder, if you're feeling stuck or confused in your walk with God, schedule a free call with me. because he doesn't want you stuck or confused. And so y'all have a great day and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Yay, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.